Hey, what's up guys, bbJ Tech here, and today I'm going to be showing you my Adobe Premiere Pro editing workflow. Alrighty guys, so here we are on the desktop. This is a video I've wanted to make for a little bit as I've really gotten used to Adobe Premiere Pro and I really have a system down when it comes to making my YouTube videos, and although I'm not a pro editor, I would really like to share this with you as it may help you out if you're just getting started. So we're starting this tutorial pretty bare bones. I'm basically, when I say workflow, we're talking about, the footage getting pulled off your SD card in the camera and even put into your file structure on your computer. So let's talk about that right now. I'm going to click on my File Explorer. So this is how I set up my projects. I just keep them in the video folder. And I have a folder in here that's current video projects. So this is where I put all the projects that I'm working on and any new projects that I start working on into this folder. So open it up. Right now I just have one video, which is the one I'm going to show you guys and do this whole tutorial with. So this is a folder called ITX Performance. It's the newest video I'm going to be doing. So I make this folder. I take all the clips from my SD card and drop them into this folder. And I have a subfolder that's called Clips, and here's all the footage from that video that I filmed. So it's all right here, and I even take it a step further and I like to try and sort out my clips. So what I'll do is any videos, so we can just go new folder, and I'm gonna make a folder called Talking. So that way I know all the videos of me talking is going to be in this folder. So pretty straightforward, and this is how I've been doing all my videos, and it keeps them really nice and organized. I'm just going to take these, I think those are all the talking ones, move them in there. I'm going to go another new folder. I usually make another folder for B-roll, and this is kind of crucial too, because if you start tampering with the frame rates in Premiere, you have a folder with your B-roll, and you can do it for different frame rates too, which comes in handy. So I think most of this is going to be B-roll, so I'm going to throw it in there. So not too many folders in this one. Usually I don't have much more than 3 or 4. Sometimes, like if you're doing a travel video, maybe you'll have lots of folders for each day that you're traveling, stuff like that. So you kind of set it up to how you want. This is how I start my project. This is going from the SD card onto your PC. I was gonna say desktop, but it doesn't literally have to be on the desktop. In our case, it's in the video folder. So we got that set up. We're gonna go ahead and jump into Adobe Premiere Pro. Alrighty guys, here we are in Adobe Premiere. So now that we have our file set up in the File Explorer, we're just going to go ahead and start a new project. So a couple places you can click on it. Usually I just click New Project over here. And I apologize that the window that my screen captures in right now is kind of odd because I'm filming on an ultra wide, so it may look a little different. Here we go. So this is the initial new project menu you'll get. So we're going to give our project a title, and I'm going to give it the same title that I gave that project folder, which is ITX Performance. And then you're going to select a place where you want the Adobe project files to rest. So I'm going to go in here, I'm going to go to videos, current video projects, and I'm just going to stick it in the root of the ITX Performance folder. So this is like inside the current projects folder where you have your individual projects. That is like the core of all your files. So I just stick it right in the main area of this folder, separated from the clips. I don't usually mix them up in there. So I'll set that, and I just keep the rendering device, the Mercury playback engine. That's all good. This is also an area, if you guys work with 4K footage, where you can go to ingest settings and create proxies for your 4K footage. And what that does is the clips that you import into Adobe Premiere Pro In the previewer, it won't be in 4K. It'll be a downscaled version, which makes it much easier to manage because the 4K files are really tough and kind of sluggish, even if you have a pretty high-end system. So, but we're just working with 1080p footage, so we're just gonna leave that alone. I'm gonna click OK, and this is gonna start a new project. Here we go. This is our new blank slate for our project, and it might look a little different for everybody because there are different layouts in Adobe Premiere Pro. You can customize layouts. As you can see, our effects layout is what we're in right now. You can see right up there. But if I go to assembly, it's going to completely change up our layout and make the clips we're dropping in first priority. So that's why it's such a big window. I usually leave it in the editing or effects layout. It just kind of works best for me. I got a previewer here and I can control the effects. So usually for the whole project, I'll leave it in this workflow, so to speak. So first things first, you want to create a sequence, and this is where you set the settings for your timeline. So that includes like your resolution, your frame rates, stuff like that. So it's good to get that out of the way first and then drop in your clips after. You definitely want to do this step first. So I'm just going to click the sequence area, then I'm going to hit Control N, and that's going to open up our new sequence settings. So right now, in what I've been doing on a lot of my videos is I film in 1080p on the Canon EOS R, and it's got a really high bit rate, so the 1080p footage looks really good. But I also set my settings in Adobe Premiere, my sequence settings. I actually use 4K 24 frames per second and 23.976 to be exact. So as you can see right here, this is the default I've been using. So once you use a particular sequence preset, a lot of times it'll remember that and just leave it. So right in here, you can see it's under the red section, and I'm not shooting this on a red camera, but a lot of editors will recommend the red 4K because it has 23.976. So here it is, 4K, 16:9 aspect ratio, 23.976. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that and click OK. So now we have our sequence, and next step I usually do is I drop in all my footage. So we're going to go over here, create some bins. I'm going to just create one called clips. I make my bins resemble the folders that we created earlier in our file explorer, which makes it really easy. So it's almost identical to the way you have your file explorer laid out. So I'm going to go back over and make sure I title these right. And a lot of times you can just drag and drop them in, but I'm going to go to videos, and you can see our Adobe Premiere project file showed up in here, which is good. So here we are. So here inside of our clips bin, I'm going to have a bin for B-roll. So I'm just going to type in B-roll. Then I'm going to have another bin for talking. And those are for all my talking head style clips. So same exact structure that we did in the Windows File Explorer. And then inside B-roll, I have a couple different, I ended up adding a couple folders. So if we go in here, inside B-roll, I have actions and slow motion B-roll. So the reason why I separated these is because they're actually filmed in different frame rates. Actions is filmed in 24 frames per second real time, and then our slow motion B-roll is filmed in 60, but we're going to slow it down in post to down to 40% to where it gives that nice slow motion B-roll effect. So it's good to separate these, and I'll show you why here in just a little bit too. So we have all of our bins made. Now it's time to actually start dropping the footage into these bins. So a couple ways you can do this. One way I'll show you is actions. So I'm gonna go into my actions bin. Now I wanna take my footage in my actions folder on our PC and drop it into this actions bin, because that's what matches. So you could double click like I just did inside the empty bin, and that'll bring you to your Windows File Explorer, and you can access all that footage from here. So we'll just go through here, B-roll, actions, and then I'll just select all these, and then you're gonna hit open. and Adobe Premiere will go to work starting to import those files into your bin, and there we go, we got them in there. So that's one way to do it. Another way is access another bin, and you can actually open up your file explorer separately on your own. You can highlight all this footage that we want to drop in, and then we could just simply drag it in. I don't always like doing this because, as you can see, it kind of hangs up sometimes and gets a little glitchy. I would probably recommend just double clicking inside the empty bin and then importing them that way. Alrighty guys, so that's pretty much, we're set up and ready to start editing. I just added a audio bin for any audio files I drop in, and a lot of times inside there I'll create new bins for music, voiceovers. So I just try to keep everything nice and organized, and you guys might have a different way of organizing stuff, but this is the way that kind of works for me, and I figured if it could help some of you guys out too, it's kind of a win for everybody. So first things first, let's go ahead and drop in our first clip. Alrighty guys, we have all of our footage in, all of our bins set up, we have our sequence settings set correctly. One disclosure, if you guys use the same method I do, which is like the upscale method where you film in 1080p but you run a 4K timeline, a 4K sequence, there's one setting you're gonna have to change, and if you don't, you're gonna get some pretty odd results. What's gonna happen is you're gonna drop in your 1080p footage, and you're basically gonna have this black box all around. Your footage is gonna look real small in here because it's a 1920 by 1080 resolution, and your frame size here is a 4K frame size resolution. So how to change this, you actually go into, it should be edit, preferences, I think appearance. Here it is, it's in media. So where it says default media scaling, you want to make sure it is set to frame size. So that'll fix that, and then all your footage will fit nicely into that 4K sequence. And so we'll drag in our first clip, and you're gonna get this pop-up window. This is very common, especially when your footage doesn't necessarily consist with your timeline settings. So we want our footage to adapt to the timeline. So I'm just gonna hit keep existing settings, and away we go. It's dropped in and ready to go. So one more thing before I start editing this B-roll is I want to talk about time remapping and a couple ways you guys can slow down your footage or speed up your footage. So basically, I have a system that I like to use for slowing down my 60 frames per second footage, and it's really easy, and it also still allows you to use some effects that wouldn't be allowed if you were to use time remapping to slow down your footage. So I'll try to explain this as clear as I possibly can, but like I said, there's a couple ways to do it. The way I like to do it is I take my 60 FPS footage, put it into a folder, and this is my 60 FPS B-roll folder down here, as you guys can see. So I'm just gonna select all these clips, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to modify and interpret footage. So this is a menu where we can start to manipulate this footage a little bit, do some settings. It's got audio channels, time code. I don't really mess with any of that stuff, but there's one setting in here in particular that I use to slow down my footage, and that's right here at the top where it says frame rate. So right now it identifies this footage as a 59.9401 frames per second, 60 frames per second. So that's what it is right now. And if I drop that footage into the timeline, it'll slow it down to just a regular 24 frames per second footage because it will adapt to our timeline settings. But I want it slowed down. I want that slow motion, buttery B-roll that all these YouTube filmmakers are doing. You know, that's the look I'm going for. And I'm sure a lot of you guys are kind of wondering the same thing, how they do it, because it's not real clear all the time, like when they actually edit that footage. So anyway, so I'm going to click assume this frame rate, and what you're going to do is you're going to modify it to the new frame rate. So I'm gonna grab a better example where it's probably a little bit more noticeable for you guys to see. Okay, this one might be good. So I'm gonna drop this on. I'm gonna play it. So this is me walking in with my camera, just getting a pan in, and it's not the most stable footage. So that's the nice thing too about filming in higher frame rates. When you go to slow them down, it can really smooth out your footage. So this is going from 60 FPS dropped into our timeline, which is 24. So it will interpret it as a 24, but it doesn't slow it down like we want. So we want to do the modify, interpret footage, and then we're going to go ahead and 23.976. Drop that in, and like once again you guys can see that the clip that we dropped in after we modified it is much longer, so that tells us that it is in slow motion. So now you guys can see that this clip has slowed down quite a bit. It's a real slow pan in opposed to before. And the neat thing about doing it this way is you still have editing capabilities with effects. So if you don't like the way that this footage looks, like it's a little shaky or something, you can actually drop in warp stabilizer on top of slowing down that clip. If you use things like time remapping to slow down your clip, you actually will be kind of limited to some of the effects you'll be able to use. So now comes the fun part where we're actually ready to edit. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw together a little B-roll sequence, and from there I'm gonna show you the export settings I use. Alrighty guys, so I have my B-roll edited and I'm ready to export it. One last tip that I wanted to go over that is very important for a good smooth playback and is all around just a good thing to do in general. I haven't experienced any choppiness editing this footage right now, but there's times where you'll have footage, and a lot of times it's with your 4K footage and stuff, especially if you don't make proxies, where your playback gets real choppy. And right now it's a little bit, it's not perfectly smooth to scrub through. So what you want to do is render your footage, and this is very important, and for a while I didn't know how to do it. So a lot of times when somebody said to render your footage, I would go up here to sequence, I would just hit that, and I would think away I go, but that really didn't do anything. And as you guys can see, this is kind of the status of your timeline. Yellow is kind of like I don't want to say like it'll run and stuff. If this line's red, you have some footage that has an error that it threw or something of that nature where it won't run right. So, and when it's green, it's been rendered, it's good to go. So we're gonna go ahead and render this out, and I'm gonna show you guys how to do that. I'm gonna click the go in to get all the way to the beginning of our timeline, and I'm just gonna hit the I key. So what that does is that's a keyboard shortcut for mark in, and then now I want to mark my out point. So I don't want to go all the way to the end because I haven't finished this video, but I want to go right here where the B-roll ends and I begin talking. So I'm going to hit O, and then I'm going to go up here to sequence, and I'm going to render into out. So you'll click this, you'll get this little loading thing, and that way you know it's working and it's rendering each frame in all your clips. And as you can see, that green progress bar there is showing you that the footage is progressing and it's getting rendered out. So you'll have really smooth playbacks. It'll be nice and easy to scrub through. As you guys can see now, it runs flawlessly. So it's always good to do that on a pretty frequent basis, especially if you want smooth playback like that. And this is pretty basic footage. I've only added a little bit of warp stabilization to each of these clips, not all of them, but and then once you start stacking effects and you have different layers, you have text layers, it can get kind of messy and the playback can get really rough. So definitely render it out, and that's the method I like to use. You can also just right click and mark in and mark out that way, but I just hit I and O on my keyboard, and once you're done you can right click and then clear in and out, and that removes your in and out points. So definitely good to do, and I really wanted to throw that in there for you guys. So now we are ready to export. I'm just going to export a small chunk of this video as an intro video, maybe for like my Instagram or something. Kill a couple birds with one stone. So I'm going to do the same mark in and mark out method for our export, because I don't want to export this whole thing, because as you guys can see I'm not done with it yet, and I'll just have music playing on a black screen for a while if I export the whole thing. So I'm going to hit I on my keyboard. Well, select my timeline first. I on the keyboard marks my endpoint. Then I'm going to go, and you can use your up and down arrows to jump from the beginning to the end of a clip, as you guys can see. So like right here I'm hitting my up arrow, and then I'm hitting my down arrow. That's jumping from the beginning of a clip to the end of the clip. So then I'm going to go right here to where my B-roll ends, hit my O key. So now I have a selection. I'm going to go to File, I'm going to go to Export right here, and then Media. So automatically the export wizard is going to see our in and out points that we set, so it knows the section of the video that we want exported. So that looks good. And I actually don't, I'm going to bump it back a little bit because it went right to the intersection of where that other clip starts. So I'm going to dial it back just a hair. Cool. So perfect. So as far as my export settings go, and this can be very subjective, I'm sure other people that work in Premiere a lot have different settings, but personally for my channel I've just been using the YouTube 4K export settings just by default. I really don't touch anything else. It's been working out pretty good for me and my needs, but I'll go into that a little bit more. I definitely want to go into the format settings, as there's quite a few here. Most commonly is H.264. I'm not super familiar of what the format is, but it's something to do with your camera's codec and the format that you're shooting in. So H.264 is very common, so especially on a lot of your DSLR and mirrorless cameras, that's the perfect format to go with. So I just leave that. And where you go to preset, this is where you have all kinds of export presets, and this is where I mentioned I use the YouTube 2160p 4K Ultra HD. That's the preset I use, and it works very well for me. And there, once you start going into effects and all these other things down here, it no longer is the preset. It takes the settings from your preset, but also incorporates anything you change. So this will change to custom. So don't be alarmed if you make like 1 or 2 tweaks. It's still that preset, but you just added your tweaks to it. So, but like I said, I don't really do any tweaking to the YouTube preset. It's worked for me, like I said, and I've kind of stuck with it. Output name, you're going to want to click on this. By default, it's just going to be sequence 01, and you're going to want to change the name more than likely and place it in a different folder. But it looks like right now it brought us to the right folder. A lot of times it'll bring me to a previous project folder, so I have to make sure that it's going to put the export into the right folder, which is just our general project folder, which is ITX Performance. So I'm going to change this video name to ITX Performance, and usually when I have a complete video I just type in final in all caps, but in this case, since it's not final, this is a preview, I'm going to do preview. And video files is MP4, that's fine. I'm going to hit save. So that's pretty much it, and I'm just going to go ahead and export that. That all looks good. It's the right format, the preset we want, and the output name is changed and in the right location that we want. So all that looks good. Like I said, there's more stuff down here. I usually don't touch it. I just kind of go with the YouTube preset and hope Adobe Premiere is constantly updating that to where it still falls into YouTube's guidelines and gets us the best export possible and the best settings for a good upload. And so far it's served me pretty well. So we're gonna stick with that. And I'm gonna go down here and click export. So it's gonna run through a few things and it's gonna start encoding the sequence. And when it's done, you'll just be left on your Adobe Premiere editing workspace. Alrighty guys, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys got some really good takeaways from it. This was just kind of a tutorial slash walkthrough of my personal Premiere Pro editing workflow. Like I said earlier, you guys' workflow might differ, and there's people that are a lot more versed and professional with video editing that might have a different workflow that works a lot better. This is just kind of what works for me and has been really helping me out, where I don't have to worry about how Adobe works so much, and I can focus on more of the editing side rather than setting up my projects, export settings, stuff like that. I've kind of just canceled that out for now, and I'm focusing more on the editing and learning more on that side. And in many cases, I feel like this kind of detours a lot of people from, starting that YouTube channel, getting into, some sort of filmmaking, video editing, is just because it is very overwhelming at first. And it's one of those things, like once you get into it, you start learning it more and more. But I hope this video gave you guys a decent starting point. If you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to give us a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed watching this Adobe Premiere tutorial, let me know in the comments if you want to see more videos like this, or maybe others related to Adobe products like Lightroom and Photoshop, as I would be more than happy to make videos like that as well. And if you guys want to see more tech related videos, make sure to subscribe. As always guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.